All right, so story 2, which was my second experience ever. It takes place several months later after my first experience. However, though, there's actually no tie-in between the two experiences. So, on experience 2, and when this is just what's so funny, I'd go my whole life without ever experiencing a paranormal event. But during this time period, I got to have a couple basically back-to-back that had no relation to each other. So I decided to go down to a neighboring town. It was called Prestonsburg, Kentucky. And I was going to have my fortune told, my palm read. And at the time, I was a little skeptical of that in itself. But the fortune teller, she's actually very good. I've had my palm and my fortune read through her a few times since then. And she's made me a believer. So, and that's cool if you don't believe in things like that. Like, you know, I'm not trying to persuade anybody on anything. So, but I am, you know. So, while I was having that done, having my fortune told and my palm read, I had a missed call from my dad. So when I leave the place, I call him back, and basically there was an incident to where he had to be rushed to the hospital. So nothing new at this point. I was, used to my dad going through health scares and things like that. It just comes with the territory of, a whole life of living. That's the best way I can put it. But basically, after they got everything, squared away, they needed to keep him in the hospital for a couple of nights. He asked me, asked if I would watch his house, house sit for him while he was up there. I said, sure, hell yeah, I don't care, man. Ain't no problem with me. So I did. And, other than the fact that, and, for those of you that have never been to Eastern Kentucky, like when I say it's in the mountains, we don't just live by the mountains or near the mountains. We live on the mountains. We live in the mountains. A hollow is quite literally a hollowed out mountain. Like, I'm not joking with you. Like, we live on the side of the mountains or in the mountains, and that's my dad's property. No really close neighbors or anything like that. So it's just his house deep in the woods, and that's it, on a mountain. So other than, normal spooky stuff that I think about, I'm not really thinking of anything. I've put the incident from a few months prior in the back of my mind. I haven't really thought about it too much other than the fact that it was weird. So anyway, getting to the first night here, I go in, everything's cool. I watch some TV, my fat ass eats something, because I'm always eating. And I eat, and I go to bed. But then I'm woken up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and he's got a hot water tank outside one of the bedrooms, and it's got like a faucet, a spout on it, however you say that, and water is just, basically blowing out of the side of it here, like somebody just turned it on. I was like, oh my God! So I ran over, turned it off, and I grabbed a pan that you basically not a frying pan, not a skillet or anything, but one of those pans that you boil water in. So those deep pans. Grabbed it and I put it underneath the spout just in case it were to come back on while I was sleeping. Checked the house. Everything's cool, Like, I was like, wow, that was weird. That was strange. So don't think twice about it. I go to bed. I get up the next day. That thing, it's full of water. And I was like, God almighty, that's crazy. So I empty it and I leave it there as I leave for the day because I assume I had work. I can't remember, but I think I had work that day. So I leave. That was a little weird. Nothing too strange, but it's weird. Well, the next night, I come back, and I'm like, all right, it's, late at night. Well, not late, but, it's dark. About 8 o'clock at night. I make me an omelet. I'm watching television. Now, something about me that is important to this story is I'm OCD about myself. Like I'm talking, I unplug things. I make sure I turn things off. I never leave anything on, ever. So I always triple, quadruple check the stove when I use it, always, no matter what. There's been times where I will unplug something or turn something off, leave the house, get 5 minutes down the road, turn around, come back to check it, and yes, I turned it off, and yes, I unplugged it. Like, that's me. I can't help it. So I check everything before I go to bed. The stove's turned off. I do my dishes. I go to the opposite side of the house and I turn on the stereo, the radio that's in my sister's room. I turn it on just to have noise. You know, I don't like it to be too quiet. I turn it on. It's not blasting, but it's on our local radio station. And you can hear it. Check the stove again. It's off. The, hot water tank, it's cool. There's nothing going on with it. I go to sleep. Well, I'm woken up about 3 a.m. again. And I smell this burning sensation. And then as soon as I come out of my sleep and I'm smelling this burning sensation, the smoke detector's going off. So I pop up out of bed. Oh my God, the house is on fire. I come running in there. The stove is on. And I said, what? I turned the stove off, took the smoke detector down and turned it off. And the stove is like red hot, man. It's on. And then I noticed the radio in my sister's room, it's been messed with. Like it's staticky, the station. It's like somebody, so I run in there and I check it. And it's like the dial's been turned completely. And then, too, as I woke up out of this, what actually woke me up out of this, and this is the key part, I woke up and I smelled this smell. The smoke detector's going off. The hot water heater is blasting water out of it again, like somebody turned the faucet, turned it on. So, to retract, I hop up out of bed, turn that off, go in, notice that the stove is on. I turn the stove off, pull the smoke detector down, stop it from going off, sounding the alarm. And then I noticed that the radio's messed up in my sister's room. I'm freaking out, man. Like, I'm really freaking out. So I searched that house. I have a baseball bat, and I searched the house upside down, under all the beds. And then I remember sitting in the living room for I think 20 minutes just looking around like I was just, I've never experienced anything like this. And I just finally made the decision. I said, I got to leave this. I'm terrified. Like, this has scared the hell out of me. I don't know what's going on. So I triple check everything in the house again, because now, I'm super terrified. And everything's fine. There's nobody hiding under beds, nobody hiding in closets. I run out, I lock the door, lock up, turn the lights off. I run out, I get in the vehicle. I was driving, I think, a Ford Taurus at the time, maybe. That's what I think that's what I had. I get in my car and I back out of the driveway and I just slowly drive down, and I'm just looking, and like this eerie feeling just had overcome me. It just kind of had just washed over my body, I guess is the best way to explain it. And the only thing I've ever been able to come up with, because nothing like that ever happened again. And the thing about my dad's property, he built a house out of nothing there. And that's not to say somebody had never died on that property before, back, 100 years ago or whatever, 50 years ago. I don't know. But nobody had ever lived there before. So the only thing I've ever been able to come up with my second paranormal experience is that when I had gone to get my palm read and my fortune told, I think something followed me back from there. Something was attached to me, latched onto me, and followed me back to my dad's. And I think it, stayed there for those 2 nights. And that experience is one to this day that still really intrigues me and scares me, like, not as in like I'm petrified, but like really just like kind of chills me to the bone every time I relive this story and every time I tell it. It's wild. But you can believe it or not, don't really care. That's what I experienced. That's what I endured. And that was my second ever paranormal encounter.